Hi, this is Billy Coté, musician, formerly of Madder Rose, talking to Rabbi Sol Solomon on Days Gone By on UNC Radio.
Oh, shalom, my friends. This is your old pal, Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And if you know me, you know I love the arts, you know I love theater, and also music, of course. And one of the more underrated bands of about 2 or 3 decades ago was called Madder Rose. They put out just a couple of albums, but some of the material on them was absolutely choice. Songs like Garsong and Satellite and Panic On. If you haven't heard of them, you need to listen to them. But not right this second, because we have the lead guitarist and co-songwriter and occasional vocalist on those records, a man named Billy Coté, who has continued to do music since then. He's scored a couple of soundtrack albums. He's worked with the band Saint Lo, some solo material. So he is still creating and doing art, and we want to talk about that with him. So shalom to you, Billy Coté.
How you doing, Rabbi? Shalom to you.
So here it is all those years later. How much of your life is taken up still with music and creativity, and how much with being a dad? And then also, I think you have a full-time job, no?
Yes, I do. Well, I mean, being in my 50s, at some point you make a choice. What does art mean to you? And I realized as I got older that it's just part of who I am. So even though I have a child and I have a full-time job now, it's still part of my daily life.
Daily? So you come home, you work on music pretty much every day?
Well, I wouldn't say every day, but I mean, if I have a project cooking, then yeah, I'll do a couple hours or maybe just an hour of it, when I get home after work. And I also do really more for therapeutic value. I do paintings and collages and stuff. I have a dining room table that's covered with art supplies. We haven't eaten off of it in years, you know.
Since you bring that up, when you say you do art and some of the covers for the Madder Rose albums are really cool, and you did them, but you do this weird thing where you don't just take a blank canvas and make a painting. What do? Well, sometimes you do, but sometimes you do something.
Oh, I see. I have this other little project I do. It's called my Repaint series. And I go to the Salvation Army, and I buy paintings that they have there. And it has to be paintings that someone has. It's not professional paintings, but someone obviously did it in their rec room or in their art class. And I'll buy those, and I'll take them home and make a new painting out of them.
Do you transform them? They seem to be rather sinister and weird once you get your hands on them.
That's just my personality, really.
Have you had showings? Have you done gallery things?
I haven't. I've talked to some people. I'm not really a visual artist per se. They're abstract and weird because I'm not really a very skilled painter. It's really more about making something sort of bizarre out of something that started out rather bizarre, and giving it a title that's sort of provocative, you know.
Well, also you do a kind of a collage-y feel to your stuff.
Yeah, I would say that. I use found pieces of paper or wrappers of candy or whatever, and stick it all together and try to make it conceptually unified with the title I give it.
If people want to see examples of your artwork, before anything else, let me send them to your website, billycote.com, and it's just COTE. You don't put the accent on it there, but billycote.com, and it has the whole story of the band and the albums that you guys made and your more recent work, as well as images of the paintings that you've done. There's a chapter from a book you wrote. Did you finish that novel?
Yeah, it's pretty much finished. I'm not sure what to do with it, though. You know what I mean? It's like in any creative endeavor, at some point you have to deal with the fact that you need to sell it. You know what I mean? My experience in the music business, while I have no regrets, I mean, I remember the type of person you have to deal with just to get your stuff heard, and it can be a little discouraging. You know what I mean?
Well, let's roll back then to the Madder Rose days when you were on, was it Atlantic Records for about 3 albums, yeah? something like that?
Yes.
What was the worst experience? I mean, were you dealing with morons, with cokeheads? You did get a record deal, so what was so horrible?
Well, I don't want to be too mean about anything, because we had our shot, so I don't have regrets. But, I mean, I think if I had to sum up the record business in one word, I would say insincere.
Okay.
People in the business, if I may continue for a sec, they're more scared about losing their jobs than about putting forward valuable music. That was what was disappointing about it. I don't know. It's like you felt you had support from certain people when you actually did not.
But there you were making the music. The record company wants to sell albums. That's what they're there for. That's how they get the money. So why is there a disconnect? I mean, they also can't tell necessarily the moment a record is hot off the presses whether it's going to be a masterpiece, whether it's better or worse than the last one, how much it's going to sell. So they're not just going to blow smoke up your tuchus. They're going to blow it up their own just because they don't know yet.
Right, they have no idea. There are no experts at any record company that I've ever met. You know what I mean?
Right. So, I mean, even the funny thing is, and you mentioned this on your website, I'm a little bit surprised that when you go through your own albums with Madder Rose, I mean, you like the first one, you think the second one is the best album that you guys put out, and then even you pish a little bit on the third record, which I actually think is pretty good. That's one of your best ones. Tragic Magic was that third one. So it is all subjective.
Yeah, it is.
Let's go back. You're young, you're musical, you are very talented on the guitar. That's undeniable. How did you go from just being another artist wannabe to having a band?
Well, before we had the one that... First thing I did was move to New York City. I mean, back in the late 80s, early 90s, that's where you had to go, or that's where you should have gone, to, I don't know, be in touch with the business, be in touch with the energy, find other like-minded musicians who are cool-looking, and therefore let you present like a complete package of what you want to do. So I moved to New York City. I was in 10 other bands before Madder Rose.
10?
What's up?
10 other bands?
Yeah, through the years, just things that didn't work out.
Sure. Did any of those bands go on to be known?
Nope. Not a one.
Okay, all right.
Not a one, but then, I think what helped, and what probably helps any band is I came up with a concept that I thought would work artistically. I started writing these kind of gentler songs, and I was like, let me work with a woman singer, because I'd only up until then worked with men. And I thought if I found the right voice, the songs I was writing might be, I don't know, something that people might like. So I think that's when I met Mary Lorson, and I heard her voice, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is what we want,
And she initially turned you guys down, didn't she?
Well, she always had one foot out the door, you know what I mean? She was like, because she had her own songs, and I think she was getting advice from people that were saying, oh, these guys, I don't know about these guys are kind of weird, they're not, maybe not who you want to hang out with. Heaven knows why, but so yeah, she was tentative the whole time, but eventually she came around and saw that there was value in what we were doing,
Now, how did you then go? So now you have a band. Now you've got you on the guitar writing some songs, Mary writing some songs as well. You're gelling, you're rehearsing. How does that go from getting a major label deal?
Well, what happened was we played a bunch of showcases or just gigs around New York, but Mary knew a music attorney, and it was sort of simple as that. Like, he's like, well, you guys are good. I can make some money off you. Let me call my contacts, And in the meantime, we put out some indie singles, like just 7-inch records on indie labels, and that kind of built up our reputation a little bit. But this music lawyer who Mary knew got us got us in the door at Atlantic. You know, simple as that.
Now, were you all starving artists at that point, or did you have jobs that you ended up leaving once you had a real serious deal with Atlantic?
Well, I mean, remember now, this is, again, back in the early 90s in New York City, so it was a lot cheaper to live back then. You know what I mean? So you could get along on a part-time job if you weren't too particular about, you know, what you ate and so forth. So,
if you ate rats and roaches, you were in good shape. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
No, it's true. So, yeah, we all had, like, crappy jobs that no one really cared about. Like, the drummer was a taxi driver. Matt, the bass player, and I both worked at art galleries as preparators, you know, hanging the shows and whatnot. And Mary was a waitress, so we were like, who cares, man? Let's live the dream, you know?
And what was a moment that you thought, was there a crossroads moment when you thought, oh my God, we might be at some point as big as, I don't know, Talking Heads, Cranberries? Did that ever shoot through your minds when things really started to happen?
Well, let me think. Well, I think the thrilling thing at first for me was we're going to get to make a record. We're going to be able to hold this thing in our hands, you know what I mean? Yeah. And show people and say, that's me on that cover there. And it so happened after we made our first record that we blew up, or we became rather popular in England and Europe. And we started playing these huge festivals right away. And I saw us on an indie record chart once. Like, our album was number 3. Like, the first band was Blur, the second was Smashing Pumpkins, and the third one was us. And I was like, okay, that's irrefutable. You know, we've done something here anyway. And then, having acknowledged that, I immediately became angry that we weren't number 1. You know what I mean? So you want the next thing. As soon as you get what you want something else immediately, I think.
And then that next thing was your second album, which you have said is I think a lot of people think it's your overall best record, the Panic On record. I would love to know, do you remember the moment that you came up with the riff for Car Song?
Yeah, I do, actually. I remember it was over a couple of days. We had played an opening. We opened for the band Yola Tango.
Oh my God! Yeah.
We were lucky enough to do that a few times in our life there, and I remember seeing them, and I was like, God, they're so good. They're so conceptually sound. They're so confident. And they played some song that had like a really gentle riff in it, sort of like that one, and I was like, oh, I was just inspired by it. And I remember sitting in the van the next day, you know, at some rest stop and just like playing it on an acoustic guitar. And I was like, oh, that's kind of nice, you know? And from there, you know, the lyrics just kind of rolled in. It was just about being on tour and missing people and so forth.
But it's the kind of song you can just put on when you're driving in a car somewhere and play it 3 times in a row. It's one of those songs, you know?
Thank you.
I mean, I don't know if it's your favorite, but it may be the one that is most identifiable with the band and the one people feel nostalgic about because they saw it on MTV, and it is so bloody catchy. It just really is, you know. And
yeah, I recognize it as something special, yeah.
And the other thing is, I always pair it in a way as a sister song with one that came out on your next album called Satellite, because there's a thing with. Or she's a satellite. There's a twisty Middle Eastern bendy thing that you do with the guitar riffs. Was that an intentional thing, or it's just, again, it came to you acoustically and then you transferred it to electric? How did that come to you?
I don't remember thinking it as analogous to Car Song, but now that you say that, I can see that. That one came about... same kind of thing, just like it just kind of popped into my head, I think. So I think I had the song first, and then I added the riff later, like that riff you're talking about.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Whereas in Car Song, it started with the riff.
Can I ask, when this was all happening, and now you're into the second album, you're doing your best work, were the usual pressures there? Was drugs a factor? Was touring getting on you guys? Or were you still on a high? A good high, a natural high?
Well, I think on a day-to-day basis, we had a lot of fun, and we did all the things that a young band does on the road. We really did them, and one of my friend came out and visited us on the road once, and he said, "You guys are demented," But
no, wait. Okay, hold on. I need examples here. I mean, are we talking like the whole Mud Shark thing that Frank Zappa made fun of it about another band? I don't know if it was the Allmans or somebody. But were you doing that kind of thing?
No, certainly not. Remember, I would like to say the boys in the band were always gentlemen, and Mary is like unimpeachable. So it was more just like, we didn't sleep a lot. We gave in to excess a bit, you know what I mean? But I would like to think we were reasonably nice to everybody.
Oh, that's good. Okay. In some ways, that's the most important thing. But if you're doing those excesses and you're not sleeping enough, does that take a toll, not just on you personally, but on the music?
Well, it took a toll on our interpersonal relationships. We weren't always nice to each other. We were nice to people outside of us, but I don't think we were particularly fond of each other all the time. In terms of like the work we were doing at that point, no. I think we were like really creatively high and inspired by the encouragement we were getting. You know what I mean? By like the success we had, and we wanted to like take it all the way. We were like this. I think we all understood that this was going to be it. This was going to be the moment that would either push us over the top into like Tom Petty world or not. You know what I mean?
And actually, come to think of it, it also occurs to me that you're the lead guitarist, major composer. Mary's this front person because she's singing a lot of the songs. Was there a leader, and did that contribute sometimes to friction? Because in some ways, everybody in the band has a voice, but at the same time, some voices have more weight than others.
Well, because I had put the band together, and I have like sort of a strong personality in terms of work. It was my band, and I was making the decisions, or not the decisions, but it was under my direction. Like the artistic decisions were sort of mine, or I was deferred to in terms of that. But that's not to say every single person in the band contributed artistically.
Oh, of course they did.
I did it.
But if there was an argument about something artistic, about the bass riff, or about how every song should have one more verse, or be shorter, or that kind of stuff, or how it's mixed, or a different arrangement, did you always win?
Usually I did, because like I was the biggest asshole, you know what I mean? Like the person who wants to argue the longest and shows up for each argument is going to win the argument, you know what I mean? And because I felt like ownership on the concept of this band, like I made sure I won the arguments, you know what I mean?
And I'm assuming most of the time that was fine, and other times the drummer and the bass player kind of looked at you and was like, how much longer, you know?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Well, I'll tell you, man, like Matt Berteret, who was the bass player, we were best friends when we started this band. Like, he just like said, yeah, sure, I'll play bass. We had no idea it was going to blow up. And by the time he left the band, after he left the band, we didn't speak for like 6 years.
Are you friends again?
Now we are, yeah.
Oh, good.
When I go to New York City, because he still lives there, we hang out and stuff. But, I have a deep regret over losing his friendship all those years. And I would say it was more my fault than his,
And it was creative. It wasn't money, or was it money too?
Nope, it was creative. It was respect. It was. I should have been kinder. I should have been nicer, really. But he was a tough person to deal with sometimes too. But I mean, I feel more responsible in that. I don't know. I just didn't let him have his opinion as much as I should have. And again, I regret that.
So moving from that second album to the third one, the one that you're not particularly crazy about, you have this third album. It's the third in your contract, I guess, with Atlantic. It comes out, and you keep on your website, you say you're disappointed because you were moving in a dub. I don't see the band as dub in any way. What do you even mean by that?
I don't know, if you listen to the rhythms on that record, they're kind of like a little bit funkier, and the bass is more prominent, and the guitars are less so. I think it was both like, because I was listening to a lot of dub at that time, but also it was like I was very influenced by Tricky and Portishead, those guys, you know, the whole trip-hop kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I tried to take us in that direction, and I don't think we were suited for it, you know?
Okay. I mean, the thing is, I hear that album, and I don't really hear that. I still hear Maga Rose doing what you guys do. So, one question. Speaking of, you mentioned the word asshole, and it brings up another favorite. I'm probably the only other person in the world who knows this song, but there's a song on that third album called Peter and Victor, which is this very weird number. It's a haunting track musically, but I'm wondering, is there an autobiography? There's about a couple of gay guys. What the hell is that song about?
Well, okay, so one time on the Lower East Side, my friend, he went, we were outside the building, he went to buy some pot from his friend, right? My friend Peter went to buy some pot from his friend Victor, and the first line of the song is what he said when he got back into my car. He gets into the car and he goes, I took one hit of that pot, then I stabbed Victor.
Okay. So it was biographical, if not autobiographical. Did they bring him to the police station? That's in the song, kind of.
Well, from just that line, like I immediately wrote it down. I thought it was so funny. What he meant by it, I think, was that the weed was really strong or something. I guess. But
so wait. He didn't actually stab the guy?
I don't think so.
Oh. Okay.
He was just trying to tell us something, but the song is about what if he did, you know?
Okay. Oh, so you took a little string of something that really happened and spun a short, sweet web, actually kind of a dark web, of what happens between these two people.
Yeah. And you're right. I kind of envisioned them as gay men who had a fight. You know what I mean?
Okay, so I can imagine that. That was in there. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So the third album doesn't really happen the way the second one did. But here's the deal. You were already big in other countries, and you had some success, especially on college radio, with songs like Car Song and Panic On. Why didn't the contract get picked up? What happened?
Well, you know, the third album, the Tragic Magic one, it cost a lot of money. Like we went to a studio in Louisiana and we lived there for a month and we remixed it a bunch of times. So it cost a really lot of money and it sold a fraction of what the previous two albums did. So just doing the math, they were like, later for these guys, you know what I mean?
Oh, all right.
But on a major label, even back then, you had to make money like pretty fast, or you were gone.
I just thought like maybe with the songs on the second album, you were making enough money to cover the third, but maybe not so much.
Not quite, no.
So and then the fourth album, Hello June Fool, that was on another label.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys didn't just split up after that third. You gave it one more go in an album that you prefer, well, one of your favorite of the Maga Rose albums. So why split up after that? Just the internal band stuff?
Well, what happened then, the fourth record, we signed with a London label called Cooking Vinyl, and it did a lot better than the third album, but not good enough. And by that time, Mary and I had moved up to Ithaca. We had become a couple. We moved up to Ithaca, New York. Johnny, the drummer, moved to Chicago, where he's from, and Chris, the bass player, lived in Brooklyn, so it was really hard to keep it going. You know, we were just too far away from each other.
So it was kind of, obviously it wasn't completely amicable because there was one musician you didn't talk to for 6 years, but just, it kind of petered out, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Somewhat natural death to the band after leaving behind lots of very good music. Okay, so now here you are, you're living with Mary, still doing music to some extent with her. Is that how St. Lo was born?
Right, that was her project, but I occasionally played guitar and helped her make the records. But that was her directing that whole thing.
So, how did you feel about her having this side project, which sounds like it started even before Maga Rose was over?
Well, you know, I was philosophical about it to an extent. I think, when a band breaks up, the people are going to follow the singer, not the guitar player. You know what I mean? So she kind of took the Matter Rose audience with her a little bit, but I accepted that, and plus she was my girlfriend, so I mean, like, how mad could I be?
Right, yeah.
But I forget what your actual question was.
I'm not sure what it was. It had to do with just going from one band to another and kind of subsuming that, or if there was a certain discomfort in that she was dealing with this even during the dissolution of Matter Rose. But probably, I guess not. No?
Well, I think I was a little jealous, definitely, but not to any degree where it ruined anything. But she waited patiently through Matter Rose to do her own thing. I think she grew enough in Matter Rose and learned enough to be ready to head her own project. So good for her.
And how long, if you don't mind my asking personal, how long did the relationship with Mary last romantically, and why did that not continue after a while?
I think we were together for 17 years.
Whoa.
All told. We started in the middle of the Matter Rose years, and we moved up to Ithaca, New York, as I said. We had a son named Roman, who's 15 now. But it didn't last. I don't know. It's who knows, man. I can't. I don't think she'd appreciate me speaking about it too much more than that.
Sure. Although, actually, here's another question that comes to mind. Be honest, when you first met her, and you were thinking about a woman for the band, and you needed a woman's voice, when she came in, were you even thinking at that moment, that's the voice I need, she'd be great for the band? Was there something in the back of your mind of she's kind of hot?
I believe it or not, and this may sound incredible to people who know me, but I wasn't thinking about that because she had a boyfriend, and she was very sincere, and she didn't put off a vibe. She didn't show me any sign whatsoever that she was interested in me. So I was like, okay, cool. This is going to be a relationship based on work. You know what I mean?
Got it. Okay.
But no, that was not my first thought.
It wasn't even your second thought. Wow.
It's about my fourth thought.
Fourth thought, and I love how you slip in there. Well, everybody who knows me, usually, first time I see a woman is because I know I'm like that, I can go to a nursing home and see women on respirators. I'm still thinking, she'd look pretty good out of that iron lung.
That's right. Pull those tubes out. Yeah, I get it.
Or put the tube in if you. No, I don't know what that means. But let me also ask you though. Are you remarried?
Am I married? No.
Oh, you're not. Oh my gosh. So is there a person in your life who's helping look after your son and et cetera and so forth?
Well, Mary and I split custody of our son evenly. We're very good friends, actually, Mary and I. I do have a girlfriend. Yeah, she teaches writing at Ithaca College, actually.
And is that where you work?
No, I work at Cornell.
Excuse me, Cornell. Whoa. And you must be smart because you work in the library there. What do you do?
I am the manager of the circulation department at 3 different libraries.
Whoa. Okay. I mean, it's a job, but it's kind of has its own prestige. Do you get to read? Do you get to work a little bit and write your blogs and short stories and things, or is there no time during the day?
I think anyone who works in a university library will tell you there are times of great busyness and other times that are not so busy. So, you can draw your own conclusions, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. In case any of your coworkers are listening, I don't want them coming upon you for 2 hours and say, now we know what he's doing all day. Well, I get that.
That's right. What? Get the door closed again, yeah.
So, you're still not only are you friends and co-parenting with Mary Lorson, but you still do music together occasionally.
Yep, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
What kind of, how would you describe the music that you're doing now? Because some of the tracks that you sent us for this segment and for the show are pretty avant-garde. They're pretty, almost like, I would say music concrete. but more Brian Eno-ish film music than pop.
Right. Well, I said before little instrumental pieces, and those are my own, and those are things I did for an art exhibition. There's one song with Mary singing, and that's what her and I are doing. And they're basically very atmospheric songs. And in this instance, we're using her vocal as the backing instrument. So instead of putting like a synthesizer or something, we make backing tracks out of her voice.
That sounds pretty cool.
It's kind of fun, yeah.
But when you come up with something now that you feel is poppy and more mass audience-ish, and like, oh, I would love for tens of thousands of people to hear this. Now, you don't. The downside of not having the assholes to deal with at a major label is it's all on you to try and get the music out there. So how do you do it?
Well, at this point, we have like a small following that will listen to stuff we put out, but I think I'm very realistic about what may happen with music I make now. You know what I mean? We just licensed 2 Matter Rose tracks to some film.
Ooh.
But that's how we're going to get heard these days. No one's going to be, we're like I said, we're in our 50s. People aren't clamoring for records by 50-year-olds anymore, except maybe other 50-year-olds.
Well, there's a lot of 50 and 60 and 70-year-olds now, more than there are 20-year-olds, to be honest.
That's true. That's true.
And they call it, there are people who object to this term, but silver tsunami. People who are watching MTV back in the day, they're now the boomer generation. They're getting older and they're living. And they want to hear music.
No, they want to hear the music they were listening to when they were 20.
That's fair. But also, yes, but they will check out the music being made by the people who were making the music that they were listening to when they were 20. I mean, do you think anybody really wants to hear Bob Dylan's new records these days? But people listen to it because, it's Bob Dylan. He did Like a Rolling Stone. And now he sings like a dead frog. But still, he's Dylan. We want to hear what he's doing.
That's true. That's a good point.
We're talking, by the way, we have a little more time here with Billy Coté, the musician. And also, you've scored a couple of short films and maybe even a couple of longer films. What is the secret to scoring a movie?
You have to honor the director's vision. You know what I mean? It's not really... If the director, if he or she doesn't like the music you've given him or her for a scene, then it's not the right music, even if you think it's the best thing you've ever done. You know what I mean? You have to honor the larger vision of the director.
So is there... Yeah, sorry.
That's okay, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you if there's a particular movie that you're really proud of, that you collaborated with the director musically, and it came out and you're like, oh, this really, I did well on this.
Yeah, we did this one. The largest movie we ever did was called What Remains. Mary and I did it together. And it was a documentary about the photographer Sally Mann.
Okay.
And it was the only movie we ever did that got a theatrical release. And she's a very gentle and complex soul, and I think we made music that sort of was relatable to that. You know what I mean? Like when I see her photographs, the music we made for the film seems like of a kind with them. You know.
What are you working on these days? What are you working on this week, next month, that kind of thing?
Well, right now, Mary and I are working on a new project. We have a couple gigs lined up in the next few months. It's her and a guy named Steve Golnick and Brian Dezorts. It's just a 4-piece thing, and we're playing very kind of atmospheric, gentle songs. And Mary's kind of into doing spoken word stuff these days, too, so some of the pieces involve her doing spoken word over, like, kind of more abstract music. So that's something I'm kind of interested in right now.
Cool. And have to ask the invariable question, since you're still good friends with her, you've gotten back friendly with a couple of other musicians, is a Matter Rose reunion possible etc., and so forth?
I don't know. 2 years ago, we were going to put out a 7-inch single, just 2 songs. But that kind of fell through when the label, whom I won't mention, kind of backed out of it. So, I don't know. If we all lived in the same place, I would love that. But it's, we're all grown-ups and we all have other stuff going on. So,
although
right now I would say probably not. But, I'm not going to say never.
And the irony is, these days, most commercial music is made by the singer is in Montreal, the drummer's in Paris, the rhythm section is somewhere in Muscle Shoals, and somebody on Skype puts it all together anyway.
It's true. I think maybe when we attempted it a couple of years ago, it wasn't the right time for everybody. But like I said, if someone else comes up and says, "Come on, do it," and all 4 of us are into the idea, then yeah, I'll do it. I don't care. Why not?
I can't believe I haven't asked yet the musicians who influenced you when you were young.
Well, I think the musician who influenced me most was certainly Lou Reed.
Oh.
His songwriting style, just his kind of like understated cool, and him in partnership with Nico, because I think having male and female energy together in any project is really important. So those 2 guys, and then going out a little further, like Andy Warhol, just his whole style, his whole concept of seeing art in the everyday. You know what I mean? Like the Campbell Soup can, for example. That kind of thing. His conceptual influence has always been big on me. Like, for example, when I told you Peter got into my car and said, "Oh, I took one hit of this pot and I stabbed Victor," like, if you look for art in everyday life, you'll find a lot of different ways to be inspired, I think,
I like that. I do like. And by the way, since you guys were doing this music in the 80s and 90s, did you ever get to meet Lou Reed?
Never did. No. But one time I went to a performance in Brooklyn. Him and John Kell did this
Songs
album
for
called
Drella,
Songs
right?
for Drella.
Yeah.
And in tribute to Andy Warhol. And I went to a performance, and somehow my girlfriend at the time and I got backstage, and Lou Reed was standing there, and he ignored me, but he winked at her.
Of course he did.
I was like, that's cool. I felt peripherally honored by that.
Hey, if it had been the 1970s, he would have ignored her and looked at you. So there you go.
Yeah, that'd have been fun too.
And did you ever play with musically any of your idols, heroes, any famous people that we know? Aside, well, you
not
like
really,
Tango
no.
Open, but yeah.
No, not really.
Okay. Well, we are delighted to have been talking to Billy Coté. We want to let you know, of course, remind you that you can find out so much about him. You can hear some of the music, you can see some of the artworks, read some of the writings of Billy Coté at his website, billycote.com, BILLYCOTE.com. And also, Matter Rose still has an extant website that you can read about the history of the band. That's MatterRoseBand.com, and it's the double R there, MatterRoseBand.com. Last question or two for Billy Coté. We've had so much fun talking with. Do you have a favorite all-time song that you've composed, be it for Matter Rose or anything else?
Interesting. Let's see. I mean, I guess even though, I would say Car Song is probably the song I'm most happy with. When I have occasion to hear it, or me and Mary played it at a benefit not too long ago, and it was like, yeah, this holds up. This is definitely a good song. Like people question, or as an artist, you question a lot of things you do, but that I can stand behind and say, yeah, this one worked.
And can I ask, aside from Lou Reed, if you could ask, and this is kind of an actor studio question, if you could ask any composer alive or dead one question, what would it be? Who would it be and what would it be?
Oh, man.
I could ask your favorite swear word, but I went with this one.
God, I mean, not to dodge the question, I would like to speak with Nick Cave or perhaps John Lurie, but I don't think I could ask them anything because how could they explain anything about what they do? It's in them, and they're like, it's like I don't think I would learn anything. So I guess if I had to say, I would ask John Lurie what he had for breakfast.
Okay. Well, probably fish. He did a whole TV series about fishing with John. So my guess is...
I love that.
He may have like a whole stack of flounder in his basement cooler and probably pops one open for breakfast right in the morning. Kippers or something. It's just a thought. Anyway, it has been lovely talking with Billy Coté. What I want to do is wish you success with your music, with your life, with your kid, with your girlfriend, and with your art. I hate to let you go. I always feel like I want to ask one more. Do you have a question for me?
You're in Colorado, are you not?
That is correct. Yes, I am. Although my temple is in Great Neck, New York. But I swing back and forth between Great Neck and Colorado.
Okay, you did a performance on Broadway, or like off Broadway a little while ago?
I did indeed. Oh, you did your research, sir. Yes.
Yeah, so how was that? Did you find that enjoyable?
I stand on a stage, I sing, people listen to me, they either clap or they get angry. What's better than that? What's better than making people laugh or making them despise you? They're both sides of the same coin, and I felt proud, and I it's almost like you on some level with the third or fourth album of Matter Rose. You're at this certain point, and it could be a fork in the road, a tipping point, like, oh, somebody's going to pick this up and bring it around the country, or bring it around the world, or bring it to a big commercial off-Broadway or Broadway thing, and you're waiting, and you're hoping, and you know what you've done is really good, and yet it doesn't happen. I've been there. So that's maybe why I asked you about that with Matter Rose. Because
I see.
And I'm not saying it could never happen. I'm still alive. I'm still well. I'm still, a moderate genius. But hasn't happened yet. I'm hoping. Great question. Oh, so here's my question back at you. Coté, French-Canadian? What is it? Is there any Jew in you?
No, there's not.
Ah, damn it. So what are you then?
I am French-Canadian, Scottish, and the other half is Italian.
Oh, Italian. So... is that accent a pain in the ass? Not the accent that you speak in or French-Canadian speak in, but on your E. Did you go through life bitching about people who either did or didn't put an accent mark over the E in Coté?
Yeah, it's been frustrating throughout, and people who don't pronounce it and just call me COTE. I mean, it's a horrible sounding word, so it can really knock the wind out of you before you even get started,
Well, it's like a horrible sound. If I go out in the cold without a coat, I'm not very happy about it. But anyway, boy, am I asking really stupid questions now. I should have left things alone. But it has been so much fun talking with Billy Coté. Again, congratulations on all that you've done and all that you will do musically and artistically in the years ahead. I thank you so much for being with us in the neighborhood, and shalom to you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Shalom to you as well.